From a 19-year-old stripper in the Bronx to a Grammy-winning global icon, you've seen the headlines, the fights, and the memes. But you don't know the real story. This is how Belcalis Almanza played the game, changed the rules, and built an empire from the ground up. Before the world knew her as Cardi B, before the platinum plaques, the sold-out arenas, and the high-fashion moments that would redefine celebrity, there was Belcalis Marlenis Almanzar. And before Belcalis became a brand, she was just a girl from the Bronx, with a laugh that could fill a room and a fire in her eyes that hinted at a destiny far bigger than the confines of her neighborhood. Her story doesn't start on a stage. It starts on the concrete streets of Highbridge, a neighborhood nestled in the South Bronx, a place pulsating with the rhythms of immigrant dreams and the harsh realities of urban life. Born on October 11, 1992, she was a daughter of the diaspora. Her mother, a proud Trinidadian woman who worked tirelessly as a cashier, and her father, a Dominican man who navigated the city's veins as a cab driver, instilled in her a sense of hustle that would become her trademark. Her very name was a testament to her heritage, a cocktail of cultures and sounds. Though the world would soon come to know her by a nickname born from a popular brand of rum, Bacardi, a moniker that playfully followed her and her sister. Hennessy, Carolina. The Almanzar household was loud, vibrant, and strict. Belcalis and Hennessy were raised with a firm hand, shielded from the more dangerous temptations of the streets. Yet the streets have a way of seeping in. The sounds of the Bronx were her first soundtrack, the bachata and reggae from open apartment windows, the raw, unfiltered beat of hip-hop blasting from passing cars, the symphony of languages spoken on every corner. This environment shaped her voice, literally. The now iconic Cardi B accent, a musical, rapid-fire cadence that can turn from hilarious to menacing in a heartbeat, is a pure product of her upbringing. A Bronx accent layered with the Caribbean inflections of her parents. It's a voice that carries the weight and the rhythm of her origins, a voice that couldn't be faked, and one that would, in time, captivate millions. She was a performer from the beginning. A class clown with a magnetic personality who knew how to command attention, even if it was just in a high school classroom or at a family gathering. But charisma doesn't pay the bills, and the path out of the Bronx wasn't always clear. As a teenager, she found herself at a crossroads familiar to so many young people in her position. She was bright, but the structure of formal education wasn't holding her. She attended Renaissance High School for musical theater and technology, a hint of the entertainer she was destined to become. But life after graduation was a different story. She briefly enrolled in the borough of Manhattan Community College, with ambitions of becoming a history teacher, a fascinating glimpse into a road not taken. But the daily grind was relentless. To support herself, she took a job at an Amish market deli in Tribeca. It was here, surrounded by organic produce and artisanal cheeses, a world away from Highbridge, that one of the most pivotal moments of her life occurred. She was fired. As she tells it, her manager let her go for giving a coworker too generous a discount. The manager, however, saw the spark in her, the captivating personality that couldn't be contained behind a deli counter. He looked at her and gave her a piece of advice that would alter the trajectory of her life forever. "You're so pretty. You've got a nice body. You should go across the street to the strip club." For many, this suggestion would be an insult. For Belcalis Almanza, it was a lifeline. At 19 years old, she was navigating poverty, a tumultuous relationship, and the feeling of being trapped. The strip club, New York Dolls, wasn't a dream, but it was a door. It was a way out. She has never been shy or apologetic about this chapter of her life. In fact, she has framed it as a story of empowerment, a calculated business decision made out of necessity. It was, in her words, the moment she started taking control. The money was transformative. Suddenly, she was making more in one night than she had in weeks at the deli. This newfound financial independence allowed her to move out of her boyfriend's house and get her own apartment. It gave her the means to go back to school, even if she eventually dropped out again. More than just the money, the world of stripping was a crucible that forged the Cardi B we know today. It was a masterclass in performance, psychology, and marketing. She learned how to read a room, how to command a stage, and how to sell a fantasy. She learned about the dynamics of power between men and women, the currency of confidence, and the art of the hustle. She saw firsthand the hypocrisy of a society that consumed the labor of women like her while simultaneously judging them for it. This period wasn't without its darkness. She has spoken openly about the pressures, the dangers, and the emotional toll. But through it all, she was a student of the game, observing, learning, and honing a persona that was unapologetically herself. She was funny, she was loud, she was brutally honest, and the clients and other dancers were her first audience. She was developing the raw material for her future stardom on the stages of clubs across New York City. But a stage made of glitter and chrome has its limits. Belcalis knew her ambition was bigger than any club. She saw the world changing around her. A new kind of stage was being built, one that was accessible to anyone with a phone and a Wi-Fi connection. It was the era of social media celebrity, the dawn of the influencer. And Belcalis, armed with a razor-sharp wit, a captivating personality, and a complete lack of a filter, was perfectly poised to conquer it. She didn't need a gatekeeper or a record executive to give her a platform. She was about to build her own, one viral video at a time. The world was about to meet Cardi B, not in a club, but right in the palm of their hands. The transition from the physical stage of the strip club to the digital stage of the internet wasn't just a change of venue. It was a revolution in how a star could be made. For Belcalis, her phone became her megaphone. Using the name Cardi B, a name that was once just a playful joke, she turned to platforms like Vine and, most importantly, Instagram, not with a calculated marketing plan, but with the raw, unfiltered energy of a woman who simply had things to say. Her early videos were not polished productions. They were shot in her apartment, in the back of cabs, in hotel rooms, often with her hair in a bonnet and no makeup on. This was the key to her genius. In an online world that was rapidly becoming saturated with carefully curated images of perfection, Cardi B was radically, refreshingly real. She was a living, breathing rejection of the influencer aesthetic. She wasn't selling a product. She was sharing a piece of her soul, her humor, and her unapologetic worldview. Her content was a masterclass in relatability, even for those whose lives were nothing like hers. She spoke directly to the camera, treating her thousands and soon millions of followers like they were her close friends sitting in her living room. She dished out hilarious, no-nonsense advice on everything from men who didn't spend enough money, which she called scammers, to the importance of personal hygiene. She told wild, animated stories from her life as a dancer, turning daily struggles into epic, comedic monologues. She coined catchphrases that would soon enter the cultural lexicon. Au cœur! A trill she delivered with a flick of the tongue became her signature sound. She was a philosopher of the everyday, a motivational speaker for the hustle, a comedian who found the absurdity in the struggle. Her followers weren't just fans, they were a community. They saw themselves in her ambition, her humor, and her refusal to be ashamed of where she came from or what she had to do to survive. She was building an army, one follower at a time, and the gatekeepers of the entertainment industry were about to find out just how powerful that army was. The mainstream couldn't ignore that kind of organic explosion for long. Television came calling, specifically Mona Scott Young, the visionary producer behind VH1's wildly popular reality series, Love and Hip Hop. Cardi B was cast in the 6th season of Love and Hip Hop, New York. And from the moment she appeared on screen, she didn't just join the show, she became the show. Reality television, a medium often criticized for its manufactured drama, met its match in Cardi B, a woman who was incapable of being anything but her authentic self. She was a supernova of personality in a cast of familiar archetypes. Her confessionals were the highlight of every episode, moments where she would break the fourth wall and speak directly to the audience with her signature wit and wisdom. Her lines became instant memes. When a rival cast member had an issue with her, Cardi famously declared with a shrug, "If a bitch have a problem with me, she's gonna have a problem with me. Forever." It was pure, uncut Cardi, and audiences were addicted. Love and Hip Hop did more than just expand her fame. It served as the public chronicle of her next big ambition, to be taken seriously as a rapper. The show's cameras followed her as she tried to transition from the world of dancing and influencing into the highly competitive, male-dominated world of hip-hop. Viewers saw her frustrations, her early, clumsy attempts in the studio, her passionate arguments with producers who didn't share her vision. They saw the fire in her, the relentless drive to prove that she was more than just a pretty face with a funny personality. She was an artist, and she was She was an artist, and she was willing to work for it. This narrative was crucial. It allowed her massive television audience to become invested in her musical journey. They weren't just watching a reality star. They were rooting for an underdog. During her time on the show, she released her first full-length project, the mixtape Gangsta Bitch Music, Volume 1 in 2016, followed by Volume 2 in 2017. While not massive commercial successes, these projects were her training ground. They were raw, aggressive, and full of the same personality that had made her a star online. They were a declaration of intent, proving her commitment to the craft and allowing her to build a musical portfolio. After 2 explosive seasons, Cardi B made a decision that many considered professional suicide. She quit love and hip-hop. At the peak of her popularity on the show, she walked away from the guaranteed paycheck, the weekly television exposure, and the platform that had made her a household name. It was an audacious gamble, a bet placed entirely on herself. She told the world that she needed to focus all of her energy on her music. The safety net was gone. In the cutthroat world of the music industry, many former reality stars had tried and failed to make a legitimate transition. The odds were stacked against her. The industry was skeptical. Could the girl with the funny videos and the reality TV drama actually become a credible, chart-topping artist? Her departure from the show created a vacuum, a moment of suspense. In early 2017, that bet paid its first dividend. She signed a major record deal with Atlantic Records. She now had the backing of one of the biggest music labels in the world. The hustle had gotten her through the door. Now, standing in the bright, intimidating lights of the big leagues, she had to deliver a hit. The world was watching, waiting to see if the gamble would pay off, or if she would become just another footnote in the history of reality television. Little did anyone know, she wasn't just about to deliver a hit. She was about to unleash a cultural atom bomb, of course. Here is the third part of the story, picking up right after she signed her major record deal. The ink was barely dry on her Atlantic Records contract, and the weight of expectation was immense. In the gleaming corporate offices of the music industry, Cardi B was still a risky investment, a wild card. They hadn't signed Belcalis Almanzar, the witty girl from the Bronx. They had signed a social media phenomenon with a reality TV Q rating. The question hanging in the air was palpable. Could she translate likes and views into actual record sales? Could she create a sound that was as compelling as her personality? The pressure to craft that first single, the one that would define her entry into the mainstream music world, was monumental. She went through countless beats, recorded numerous tracks, but nothing felt quite right. Nothing captured the raw, ferocious energy that had built her empire. Then, a beat from a producer named Jay White came across her desk. It was sinister, menacing, and built around a sparse, looping melody that sounded like the theme music for a final boss. It was perfect. Upon hearing the beat, Cardi was immediately reminded of the cadence and flow of Florida rapper Kodak Black's hit, No Flockin'. Instead of shying away from the inspiration, she embraced it, using his flow as a springboard to launch her own story. The result was Bodak Yellow, a title that was a clever nod to both Kodak Black's name and her own past as a stripper, a reference to the signature red-soled Christian Louboutin heels, which she famously called Bloody Shoes. Released on June 16, 2017, the song was not a pop-friendly, radio-catered single. It was a declaration of war. From the opening line, "Said little bitch, you can't fuck with me if you wanted to," it was an unfiltered anthem of self-creation. The lyrics were a chronicle of her ascent, a direct address to her haters and anyone who had ever doubted her. Lines like, "I don't dance now, I make money moves," became more than just lyrics. They were mottos. The song was a sonic embodiment of her entire journey, the grit, the aggression, the unapologetic celebration of her own success, paid for by her own hustle. Bodak Yellow didn't explode. It detonated. It started in the clubs and on the streets, an organic groundswell of support from the very audience that had followed her from the beginning. Then it caught fire across the country. becoming the undeniable song of the summer of 2017. It was inescapable. Blasting from cars, echoing through city blocks, and dominating radio waves, the song was a cultural phenomenon. It was an anthem for anyone who had ever felt underestimated, a soundtrack for personal triumph. The song began its historic climb up the Billboard Hot 100 chart. Week after week, it rose higher, toppling giants. The music world watched, captivated as this raw, uncompromising hip-hop track from a former reality star barreled towards the #1 spot, a position then held by pop titan Taylor Swift. On September 25, 2017, the impossible happened. Bodak Yellow hit #1, making Cardi B the first solo female rapper to achieve the feat since Lauryn Hill with Doo Wop, That Thing, in 1998. It was a 19-year drought, broken by the unlikeliest of heroes. The industry was stunned. The girl they had viewed as a gamble was now, officially, a queen. The success of Bodak Yellow transformed her from a celebrity into a global superstar, but it also amplified the pressure to an almost unbearable degree. The question shifted from, can she make a hit, to can she do it again? The world now eagerly awaited her debut album, and the whispers about her being a one-hit wonder were relentless. All of this was happening while her personal life was also in the spotlight. Her whirlwind romance with Migos rapper Offset became public fodder, complete with an onstage proposal, a secret marriage, and as she was creating her album, a pregnancy with her first child, Culture. She was crafting the most important project of her career while navigating the complexities of new love, impending motherhood, and a level of fame she could have never imagined. The world wanted to know who Cardi B the artist was, beyond the one colossal hit. Was she just the aggressive brawler from Bodak Yellow, or was there more to her story? On April 6, 2018, she gave them their answer. Her debut album, Invasion of Privacy, was released to the world, and it was a revelation. The album was a stunning showcase of versatility, depth, and star power. It silenced every single critic and exceeded every expectation. She delivered the braggadocious, hard-hitting rap anthems that fans craved with tracks like Moneybag and Bickenhead. But she also peeled back the curtain, showing a raw vulnerability that was startling. On Be Careful, she offered a poignant warning to her cheating partner, a track that felt ripped directly from the headlines of her own life. On the scathing Through Your Phone, she explored the pain and rage of discovering infidelity with a chilling specificity. And then she proved she could create massive, world-conquering pop hits. I Like It, a vibrant, infectious collaboration with Latin superstars Bad Bunny and J Balvin, sampled a Boogaloo classic and became another song of the summer and her second #1 hit. The album was a triumph, a cohesive and brilliantly executed project that solidified her status as a multifaceted artist. The accolades poured in. Invasion of Privacy debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, broke numerous streaming records, and was hailed by critics as one of the best albums of the year. The ultimate validation, however, would come on the music industry's biggest night. At the 61st Annual Grammy Awards in February 2019, Cardi B, visibly nervous and overwhelmed, sat in the audience as Invasion of Privacy was announced as the winner for Best Rap Album. Her reaction was pure, unadulterated shock and joy. Taking the stage, she gave a rambling, emotional, and utterly charming speech, thanking her daughter, her husband, and everyone who had helped her along the way. The moment was historic. She had just become the first solo female artist to ever win the award. The journey was complete. The girl from the Bronx, the stripper who was told to go to the club across the street, the social media personality who built her own platform, the reality star who bet on herself, was now a Grammy-winning artist, holding the industry's most coveted prize. She hadn't just invaded their privacy, she had taken over the entire kingdom. Excellent. Let's proceed with the 4th chapter of her story. Winning the Grammy was not an ending. It was a violent, instantaneous transformation. One moment she was Cardi B, the improbable champion who fought her way to the top. The next, she was Cardi B, the institution, the A-list celebrity, the established queen. The underdog narrative that had powered her ascent had evaporated overnight, replaced by the heavy, gilded crown of a reigning monarch. Life was no longer just about the hustle. It was about navigating the treacherous, rarefied air of global superstardom. She became a fixture at the Met Gala, her elaborate headline-grabbing outfits a testament to her new status as a fashion icon. She was a front-row regular at Paris Fashion Week, a coveted guest on every late-night show, and a brand name recognized in every corner of the globe. But this new life was a paradox. While her public world expanded to dazzling new heights, her private world was also undergoing a seismic shift. She was now a mother, having given birth to her daughter, Cultura Chiari Cephas, in July 2018. This new role added a profound new layer to her identity. The brash, unapologetic performer now had to be balanced with the fiercely protective instincts of a mother. She proves that her greatest talent has always been her ability to evolve, to surprise, and to keep the world watching, waiting for whatever she decides to do next.